The final part. Now, we've talked extensively about your career within the sporting sphere. You've also done a lot of work outside. People may well have heard your voice and not realised it's you. So can you tell us why you do other stuff and what other stuff you've done?
I love writing, I love scripting, and one day I saw an advert in the paper. There was going to be a new terrestrial TV station opening up, Channel 5, or 5 as it was called then. And they wanted continuity announcers to talk between the programmes, introduce, and then come out with the end credits as well. And I thought, I can do this. I wasn't a very confident person in those days, quite introvert. And I forced myself to write to the head of communications at 5. And she said, we've already allocated the 5 spaces. So you do like a 4-hour shift each. And then one of the guys dropped out for health reasons. And she rang me. And she said, Paul, come in. Here's a set of programs, here's some videotapes. I want you to write an intro and an outro. You can be as sarcastic, as funny as you want, because we're going to be different to the BBC and ITV. We're going to make it an entertainment, not just an information sort of sign to the next programme or the programme same time next week. So I did it. In those days they had a lot of American soaps in the morning, and a lot of them lasted the end credits 2 or 3 minutes, and I went out on a limb. I took a real chance. I made some bold statements. I rubbished characters. I was a little bit naughty. I was slightly blue. And I did them. They were recorded. And I went back home about 5 o'clock and I thought, oh my God, I've gone a bit too OTT, which I've done in my career. I'm a loud mouth. I say what I think. And sometimes that's let me down for certain jobs. And she rang me back later that day at 5 o'clock and she goes, Paul, you're in, can you start on Thursday? It was a Tuesday, can you start on Thursday? I couldn't believe it. I used to have to get up at 4 in the morning. I'd be on air between 6 and 12 and also cover the TV programmes, which is the same it is nowadays on Channel 5, Milkshake, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then I wanted to do the biography channel, which I loved as well. Hard work, but the greatest fun. I met some incredible people.
It's like I tell my kids if somebody worked on Milkshake.
I know.
Right. So, I mean, you also worked on the quick thing about the Travel Channel.
Yeah, I did the Travel Channel for about 8 months. Presented that. Very young-looking Paul JACOBS. Love travel, love countries, love cultures, love investigating, love going to. So that was great fun as well. It wasn't particularly well paid. It was only a minor channel in sort of the backwaters. But that was great fun as well. You were talking to people. The great thing is you're talking to the camera, but you're talking to thousands of people. And you put that out of your mind. What you do is you just have fun. You just enjoy it. If you like the subject, you're commentating, tipping, broadcasting about audio or audio and visual. If you enjoy the subject matter, to me it was easy. And it was great fun, and it was a privilege as well.
Now, a lot of this stuff is overlap. The dates overlap, obviously.
Yeah.
Doing it. I mean, you had a young family.
Mm-hmm.
How did you manage to juggle all that and have a family life at the same time? Was there not any sort of pressure from your wife to be, hold on a minute, you don't go to dogs every night? And...
It was tough. It was really tough. You know, I could be on the road for days at end, because when I first started at Talk Sport, when it changed from Talk Radio to Talk Sport, I'd be commentating every other day at a racetrack, live from a racetrack. I was the first ever racing commentator. Plus I had all my written work. Plus I'd had to sometimes fit in greyhound racing in the evening. Plus I'd be broadcasting for the Travel Channel. Plus and/or I'd be doing continuity. It was tough, but that's the world of a freelancer. You accept that, you know. If you really have the energy and the commitment and you want to get from A to Z as quickly as possible, then you do it. And that's what anybody does in their profession to be successful. I've been moderately successful, but I've been lucky to enjoy stuff. You know, I've stacked shelves at Tesco's. I've done lots of different things in my life, but I'm lucky to have the niche career that I've had down through the years. I've loved every minute of it.
Now, one thing I always find interesting, I've got friends of mine do a similar thing, but you've worked with, or still do work with, Betfair and Paddy Power, is that right? As a pundit. Yeah. So a lot of the Cheltenham this year and stuff. So is it not tricky for them to employ you, knowing how good you are at tipping winners?
Yeah, no, not really, because even the best tipsters have more losers than winners. We all do. If you're asked to tip every day, you're going to have more losers than winners. Just go and have a look at the Naps table. Even the winner has more losers than winners. It's just they have a level stake profit. So I go up 3 or 4 weekends in the month from London to Manchester, work for Betfair. Great team there, great young team. I think I get on well with them as well. Fred Dunn is salt of the earth. Love that. Do a blog for Paddy Power. And then when it comes to the big festivals, especially Cheltenham, I do talk sport. I go on Hawksby and JACOBS. We just have fun. You know, this is not work. Some of the work I do is intense and you really work your backside off. But half the time you're doing work and it's entertaining yourself and you're getting paid for it as well. It's absolutely ridiculous. At Cheltenham this year, I hosted the Paddy Power box with Ruby Walsh and Paddy Power for Paddy Power Stayers Hurdle Day. I did 45 minutes. I'm on a panel hosting with Ruby Walsh. That's ridiculous, and I'm getting paid for it. You know, what more do you want in life?
Well, that's an interesting question, because you've worked extensively on, broadcasting. You're extremely knowledgeable pundit. You're very talented. You can do commentating and all that, but you haven't been on the main, as far as I know, you haven't been on the main racing channels or ITV or whatever. Is that because you alluded to earlier, you're a little bit too outspoken for mainstream? I
think now it is for the 2 racing channels. Very interesting meeting I had with Andrew Franklin, Channel 4 racing head, when I was teletext racing editor. And he said, will you have lunch with me one day at Fleet Street in a restaurant across the road? And it was my chance. I think I had a real chance of being on the team. And he asked me this question, and I forever to this day regret my answer. He goes, do you like TV? Would you like to broadcast on TV? And do you know what my answer was? It was the worst answer I ever gave in my life to anybody about anything, from the age of 1 day to being 59 now. And I said, I think I prefer radio. And with that, I think my chance just folded me on channel, and I found out later on that he'd earmarked me to be on Channel 4 Racing. But I didn't think about it, and sometimes I am rather knee-jerk. Oh my God, if I could have my time again, it would have been maybe so different. But then I don't regret what I've done for the rest of my career. I've been very lucky. You'd
have thought that being a live broadcaster, you'd have a bit of a filter before you answer questions like that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I was very young then. I was only just married. You know, I loved my job at teletext. And I didn't think it was... This just shows how novice I was in racing parlance terms. How stupid I didn't think about it. Why would Andrew Franklin ask me to have lunch across the road in Fleet Street when he didn't really know, or he knew I was the racing... Why was he asking me to have lunch with him? It just didn't click.
You could have been a great double act with John McCruick, couldn't you?
Terrible. I so regret it.
But you say that you have been a bit outspoken, in your own words. So what have you been... And when you say outspoken, have you upset people with your opinions? I mean, what have you been outspoken about?
No, I just think, I think what's wrong with the media today, and it happens in racing, is that the industry is like one big family, and they're very, very scared to criticise each other, even if it's constructive criticism. You'll see it on ITV Racing, which I think is a great product, but the one thing that's missing on ITV Racing is that they won't criticise a jockey's ride or a placing of a horse if the jockey or trainer are there and they're going to be interviewed, or they're possibly going to see it. I don't get that. I think if you say it in the right manner, and you're constructive in your criticism, and you have not a watertight argument, but nonetheless a factually based argument from your viewpoint, I don't understand why people don't do that in the industry, but they simply won't.
Now, is working regularly on racing or even terrestrial TV still an unfulfilled ambition for you, or are you over that?
No, it's still an ambition. I still got loads of energy, as you can see. I love the game. I love the game for the horses first of all, for the tipping second of all. It really makes me sad to see the greyhound industry floundering, and horse racing to a certain extent in several areas. not being as good as it can be, and not for all parties working together for the good of the sport. That's what really irks me. I think I'm good enough to be on one of the 2 racing channels. They don't want me, and that's their, they've come up with that decision, and you have to respect it. If certain people don't fit the bill, don't fit what they want, and you have to understand that. I have great love working for Betfred and for Paddy Power. I love being in the studio at Betfred and being the pundit there and working with such great professionals as Mark Pearson and Matt Humes, and I get to meet all the football pundits as well. I think I get great gravitas out of that, and I couldn't love doing that job anymore with a really young team. It makes me feel 25, 30 again, which I'd love to be. So yeah, I still have ambitions. I still want to present on TV. If it's a pundit or present, I presented on Setanta Sports for 3 years when they were doing the Cheltenham and Aintree festivals with aforementioned Rory Delagi and Danny Mullins, and they remain friends of mine to this day. I'd love to do more. I think more than punditry, I'd love to do more presenting. Presenting over punditry is my main line, I think, and my better skill.
Okay, we're coming to the end of this now, but I'm going to take you back. Racing isn't as good as it could be. What do you mean?
Because there's different factions warring against each other. It's this short-termism effect that killed greyhound racing, Make a quick buck, make it quickly, take the customer and the punter for granted. No customer, no punter, no horse racing industry. Here's a basic rule, at the big meetings. They put their prices up, not only for tickets, but also for a pint of beer. It's just taking your audience for granted that they're going to pay it. And yeah, they probably are going to pay it, but it's the wrong way to go about it. Earning the easy buck, but not for the good of the industry. And there are so many different factions within the industry bashing their heads against each other, and time and time again that comes to the fore, and it doesn't work. The horse racing industry is better than that, but it seems that these factions won't come together for the good of the sport as a whole.
Okay, the final 2 questions. Going back to tipping winners, where we started. You tip thousands of winners. Give us a basic rule that punters can follow to improve their selection process, or at least stop them backing so many losers.
Well, I'll give you 2 very quickly. 1, specialise in one area. 5 furlong handicaps, state races, Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, novice events. Hone in on one area so you don't have to do too much homework right across the board. But when you do that homework in those specific areas, put the time in, because it will pay off.
And one, from a betting point of view, how should people bet? Should they be betting, how should they bet?
It's all down to the individual, I love betting on the place pot. I think it's great. When you think 2 days of the Cheltenham place pot this year, one day paid 14,000 to a £1 stake, and one day paid 21,000. I like to go for a small stakes play for a possible big win. I always have them. That's why I bet anti-post a lot of the time. I remember backing big bucks for the Stayers Hurdle when he ran in the Hennessy that year, and he unseated in the Hennessy, and I thought, he's going to go back over hurdles, and I jumped in. I got 33 to 1. Anti-post for me, and trying to assess where a horse is going to go a long time in advance. Not only getting the monetary gain, but being proven right. Your judgment was right. That's a great thrill. It's a great thrill. But specialise in the area. Specialise in the area and do the homework. It will pay off.
Okay, brilliant advice. A final question. What would give you the biggest thrill career-wise in the future?
I would like to present on one of the 2 main horse racing channels, but outside of that, it's not just blinkered to that. I would like to present on main TV again if I possibly could. I've done national radio with Talk Sport. I've done local radio with a brilliant City Talk Radio, Radio City in Liverpool. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to go on radio and TV, and I'd like to present again. I just feel that's my strength.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for giving us your time, Paul Jacobs. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.